take a deep breath, slowly in and out. You're safe here. There's nowhere you need to be except here, right now. Imagine this. It's night. A soft, deep night where everything is quiet enough to hear your own heartbeat. The air is cool. The sky stretches endlessly. A blanket of stars, silent and watchful. And there, standing at the edge of a river, is a woman. She doesn't move at first. She's been walking for a long time, though she's not sure from where. Her shoes are dusty, her heart heavier than she expected. She looks at the water. The surface reflects the moon, but the current beneath moves steadily, silently, endlessly forward. She whispers to herself. Not words exactly, just a sound like remembering. Do you know that feeling? When everything changes, and you're not sure who you are anymore? When a door closes, and you stand there in the dark, wondering if another will ever open. Sometimes change doesn't come with thunder. Sometimes it comes quietly, like a gentle tide that erases footprints on the sand. This woman, she came here because something inside her said, it's time. Time to let go. Time to stop holding the pieces together. Time to listen. But what is she listening for? She doesn't know. She only knows that when she tries to return to what once was, the path no longer feels real. It's like a dream she's already awakened from. So she stands at the edge of this river, between what was and what will be. She closes her eyes. She feels her own breath, and for a moment, she allows herself to stop searching for answers. Sometimes that's all you can do, isn't it? Breathe. Exist. Wait for the water inside you to calm enough so you can finally see your own reflection again. And as she stands there, something shifts. The night air moves gently through her hair. She feels noticed, as if the world, this silent, endless world, has been waiting for her to arrive. The stars seem closer now. Their light soft, silver, patient. She wonders, how many times have I been here before? How many times have I begun again without even realizing it? Change always feels like an ending, doesn't it? But maybe it's a beginning in disguise. Maybe it's not about losing yourself. Maybe it's about meeting yourself again. She kneels near the river. Her fingers touch the surface. Cold, alive, moving. The water pulls at her reflection, not to take it away, but to teach her that nothing truly stays still. And in that movement, there is peace. She whispers softly, I don't know what comes next, but maybe I don't need to. Maybe this, not knowing, is where the magic hides. Her voice trembles slightly, like the first light wind before dawn. She closes her eyes again and listens. The night hums, not loud, just the quiet music of being alive. The rhythm of her breathing, the pulse of the river, the heartbeat of something greater. You can almost hear it, can't you? That soft reminder that you are not behind in your life. You are simply becoming. And in this quiet night, the woman realizes something simple, something she had forgotten. She doesn't need to go back. She can rest. She can begin again. From here. Sometimes the first step isn't forward. Sometimes it's standing still until your soul catches up with you. Stay with me. Let's walk together. The river will show us the way. The night hasn't ended yet, but something has changed. The woman begins to walk along the river's edge. Her steps are slow, each one leaving a faint print in the damp soil. The sound of the water follows her, steady, calm, almost like breathing. For a long time, she says nothing. Sometimes silence has more to tell than words ever could. The river seems alive, not just moving, but speaking. The ripples, the quiet splash against the stones, the rhythm of flow, all whisper something ancient, something that doesn't need language to be understood. As she listens, she realizes the sound of the river isn't outside her anymore. It's inside. It's the same rhythm as her heartbeat, the same pulse she's felt whenever she's loved, or cried, or tried to hold on to something that was already leaving. Have you ever noticed that? How life speaks to you in the same pattern over and over, until you finally listen. She kneels again and watches the current. Small leaves drift past, tiny fragments of twigs, petals, pieces of the world carried onward. Nothing resists. Nothing fights to go backward. The river doesn't resist the current, she whispers. It becomes it. And maybe that's what she's here to learn. Not how to control the flow, but how to move with it. She remembers a time when she tried to hold everything together, when change came and she clenched her fists, afraid of what she'd lose. But the tighter she held, the more things slipped through her fingers. Isn't that how it goes? When we're afraid to lose control, we lose our peace instead. Now she lets her hands open. She lets the cool night air move between her fingers. She lets the river speak. And in that quiet conversation between her and the water, something inside her softens. The current tells her stories, not in words, but in memory. She remembers laughter, the feeling of sunlight on her face, the sound of rain on a rooftop years ago. Small, unimportant moments that now feel sacred. The river seems to say, "You haven't lost those things. You've carried them here. They are in your bones." And for the first time, she smiles. Not because everything is clear, but because she doesn't need it to be. She realizes the river doesn't ask the mountain why it must flow down. It doesn't beg the sea to wait. It moves because that's its nature. And in movement, it becomes whole. Maybe I am like the river too. Maybe you are. Always flowing, always becoming, even when we think we're standing still. She keeps walking. The moon follows her, reflected in the moving surface. Sometimes clear, sometimes broken, but always there. How many times have we mistaken reflection for truth? When the light bends, we think the world has changed, but it's only our eyes adjusting. Every change is like that. It distorts your reflection for a while. You forget who you are. But if you wait long enough, the surface clears, and there you are. Still you, but somehow deeper. The woman stops by a small bend in the river. There's a willow tree, its long branches brushing the water. She sits beneath it, leans against the trunk, and lets her eyes close. The whispers of the river blend with the rustling leaves. The sound is almost human, a low, ancient lullaby. You are safe, it seems to say. You are moving forward, even when you rest. And she believes it. For the first time in what feels like forever, she believes it. Sometimes healing isn't a loud moment of realization. It's a quiet one. A night by the river, where you finally stop fighting the current. She sighs. A deep, trembling sigh, and with that breath, a small piece of her old pain floats away, just like a leaf, carried by the whispering river. Thank you, she says quietly, though she's not sure who she's speaking to. For staying with me, for not giving up. The moonlight dances on her face, a sign, subtle but certain, that something inside her is beginning to shift. She doesn't need to understand where the river ends. She just knows she's not alone on the way there. And as she drifts into rest, the river keeps whispering, softly, endlessly, lovingly. The woman wakes before dawn. The stars are fading. The river still hums its steady lullaby. She rises slowly, her body a little lighter, her heart still uncertain, but not as heavy as it once was. Ahead, through a thin mist, she sees something on the riverbank. An outline, a shape of wood and shadow. A house, old, quiet, waiting. She hesitates. There's something about this place. Something familiar, as if she's been here before, long ago, in a dream she once had and forgot. The door creaks when she touches it. The sound echoes, not sharply, but softly, like a sigh from the walls. She steps inside. Dust swirls in the air, lit by faint strips of morning light. The air smells of wood, old rain, and memory. The woman walks slowly across the floor. Her fingers brush the walls, and everywhere she looks, framed pictures, objects left behind, chairs slightly turned, books with their pages half open. Everything feels alive. Not in body, but in memory. She realizes this house isn't a real place. It's her inner world, her memories, the rooms of who she used to be. Each echo she hears is a piece of herself, calling out, waiting to be acknowledged. She moves through the hallway. On the walls, she sees glimpses. A smile she once had, a day she thought would last forever, a face she lost along the way. They are not ghosts. They are echoes, imprints of her own living. She pauses by a small mirror on the wall. The glass is cracked, but her reflection is whole. I remember you, she whispers. You were trying so hard to be strong. The silence answers back, a faint warmth spreading through the room, like forgiveness. She walks into another space, a room filled with boxes. Inside them, letters, small objects, scraps of the past. She sits down on the floor, one by one. She opens them, Some bring tears, some bring laughter, some bring both at once. And for each one, she says softly, "Thank you. I don't need to carry you anymore." The house listens. Its wood creaks softly, like the exhale of something being released. Isn't it strange how we store pain like precious things? How we hold it carefully, as if letting it go would erase who we were? But letting go isn't forgetting. It's honoring the fact that you lived it, that it shaped you, and that you can move on without needing it to define you. The woman moves to another room. This one is filled with light. Its windows open to the river outside, and there, on a wooden table, sits a single candle, unlit, but waiting. She takes a match, strikes it softly. The flame trembles to life. The candlelight fills the room, and for a moment, everything glows. The walls no longer seem old. The air feels warm. And in that light, the echoes become clear. They are not ghosts. They are blessings. Every version of you that tried, that failed, that loved, that lost, they were all doing their best with what they knew. So the woman closes her eyes and says to the echoes, "Thank you for carrying me this far. I can take it from here." The sound of the river returns, a little louder now, as if calling her back. She stands, looks around one last time. Nothing is gone. Everything has simply found its place. She steps outside. The mist is lifting. The dawn is near. And on the horizon, she sees it. A bridge, old stone, arched and graceful, stretching across the water. The river glimmers beneath it, golden with the first hints of sunlight. She smiles softly, because she knows this is where she's meant to go next. The house behind her stands still, but its doors are open. And for the first time, she leaves without looking back. Every ending is just another door, and every door eventually leads you home. The sun has not yet risen, but the world is beginning to glow. The mist has thinned, and the air tastes new. A quiet mix of dew and morning light. The woman stands before the bridge. Stone arches rise from the river, covered in moss, ancient yet unbroken. The sound of water below is gentle, a patient rhythm that seems to breathe with her. She feels small here, and that's all right. For a while, she simply stands, looking across. The other side is not far, but it feels like another world. She takes a breath. The air fills her lungs, then leaves slowly, like the tide pulling back to the sea. And in that breath, she realizes something. Every change in her life, every loss, every goodbye, has always brought her here, to this moment, to this bridge. She steps closer. Her hand touches the stone railing. It's cool beneath her fingers, solid, real, and yet there's something alive in it, as if countless souls have crossed before her. She wonders how many others have stood here, hesitating before change? How many hearts have whispered, "Am I ready?" before taking the first step? She closes her eyes. Her thoughts rise and fall like waves. What if I cross and lose who I am? What if I stay and never become who I could be? The river answers with nothing but its steady voice, a sound that says, both are illusions. You were never separate from where you're meant to go. Soft whisper, change doesn't erase you, it reveals you. She places one foot on the bridge. The stone is firm, but her body trembles. The first step is always the hardest. Not because it's dangerous, but because it's real. She takes another and another. Each step echoes softly, like a heartbeat in the open air. With every echo, memories rise. The laughter she thought she'd lost, the pain she thought she couldn't bear, the faces she still carries in her heart. She walks slowly, listening to them all, not trying to silence them, but letting them walk beside her. Halfway across, she stops. The river below looks still from here. It mirrors the pale sky, turning it into glass. It's so quiet that she can almost hear her own pulse. In the soles of her feet, she leans on the railing and watches her reflection. It wavers, then settles. For the first time, she doesn't look away. She sees the woman she was, the one who feared, who grieved, who clung to the familiar. And beside her, the woman she's becoming, calm, steady, not because she knows everything, but because she's learning to trust. You are not crossing the bridge. A voice inside her says, you are becoming it. Stillness fills her, the kind that isn't empty, but alive. Her heartbeat slows, her shoulders relax, and the air around her feels like it's breathing with her. She stands there for a long moment, eyes closed, hands open, heart uncovered. Then, a breeze moves across the water. Light begins to bloom behind the hills, and the first color of dawn touches her face. This is what surrender feels like. Not defeat, but release. Not losing control, but trusting the flow. The world is not asking her to be fearless. It's asking her to stay open, even when afraid. She opens her eyes. The other side of the bridge glows golden. The sky has softened into shades of rose and blue. She smiles. A quiet, knowing smile. And then she walks. The bridge doesn't shake. The river doesn't roar. The world doesn't change suddenly. But she does. Something inside her settles. She's not the same woman who stood trembling at the edge. And yet, she hasn't become someone new either. She's just more herself. She reaches the end of the bridge. The ground beneath her feet is warm now, sunlight touching stone. She turns once more, looking back across the water. The House of Echoes is barely visible through the mist. The river flows quietly, and the bridge, strong, still, timeless, stands between what was and what is. "Thank you," she whispers, "for teaching me how to cross." She steps into the light, and the river behind her keeps singing its gentle song. The air on the other side of the river feels different. Not brighter, not louder, just lighter. The kind of air that carries possibility. The woman walks slowly along a narrow path lined with wild flowers. Tiny drops of dew cling to each petal, glistening like small universes. Born from the morning, for the first time in a long while, she feels no urgency to arrive anywhere. She walks because walking feels right, because breathing feels sacred again. As the path curves, she passes a tree, tall, gnarled, and ancient, its bark etched with scars from countless seasons. She stops, presses her palm against it, and feels life pulsing beneath the rough surface. Roots buried deep, branches reaching toward light. The tree seems to whisper, "Change is not the end. It's how the world remembers itself." She thinks of all she's been through, the endings that once felt like death, the nights that refused to end, the silences that frightened her, and now, standing in the quiet glow of dawn, she can see it all differently. Each loss carved space inside her, a space that made room for light. She kneels near the riverbank, cupping water in her hands. The water is cold, alive. She watches it drip through her fingers and laughs softly. "You can't hold on to what flows," she says, "but you can let it shape you." There's peace in her voice now. Not the peace of certainty, but of surrender. She sits on a smooth stone by the river. Sunlight scatters across the surface, breaking into fragments of gold. The world around her is awakening. Birds begin to sing. The wind carries the scent of pine, and somewhere in the distance, a bell rings faintly from a village unseen. She remembers the words she once heard, in a dream long ago. "You must die many small deaths before you learn how to live fully." At the time, she thought it meant pain, but now she sees it meant transformation. We shed what is no longer true, so that truth can breathe again. Her eyes drift across the water, watching ripples form and fade. She notices how none of them resist. They appear, they move, they dissolve, each one part of something endless. And suddenly, she feels connected to everything: the river, the wind, the heartbeat inside her chest. For a moment, it's all one continuous rhythm. She realizes nothing was ever truly lost. Not the people, not the moments, not even the versions of herself she outgrew. They're all here, woven into the air she breathes, the earth beneath her feet, the sound of the river that never ends. This is the gift of change. It doesn't erase your story. It writes you into a larger one. She closes her eyes. Images drift through her mind. The House of Echoes, The bridge, the still water reflecting her face. But now, they don't ache. They bless her. Each memory feels like a hand, touching her shoulder, saying, "Thank you for carrying us this far." She opens her eyes again. The light has changed. It's no longer the timid gold of dawn, but a steady, confident brightness. She stands, and when she does, she feels taller. Not in body, but in being. The river behind her whispers its endless song, and she whispers back, "I understand now. Not everything that ends is lost." The breeze moves through her hair. A single petal falls from a branch above, landing softly on the water. It floats downstream, graceful, unhurried, free, and she smiles, watching it go. "I think I was the petal all along." As she turns away from the river, the path ahead glows faintly, not a promise, but an invitation. Each step forward feels lighter, as if she's walking inside a quiet blessing. The past isn't behind her now. It walks beside her, softly, like an old friend who no longer needs to speak. The day has unfolded. In quiet colors, the woman walks along the old path that winds through the forest. Leaves shimmer softly in the late light, casting golden patterns across her hands. It feels different now. Not because the path has changed, but because she's seeing it with new eyes. The air is warm and smells faintly of earth and rain. She hears her own breath, blending with the sounds of the forest, the whisper of branches, the distant hum of the river she crossed that morning. And though she's walking alone, she doesn't feel lonely. There's a quiet fullness that follows her now. As she walks, she notices how familiar everything feels. The bend in the trail, the moss-covered stones, the way the light filters through the trees. But something subtle has shifted. The silence isn't heavy anymore. It's alive, like the pause between heartbeats. Sometimes, home isn't a place. It's the moment you stop running from yourself. In the distance, she sees smoke rising, a small column curling gently toward the darkening sky. Her cabin, the house she left behind. For a moment, she hesitates. The last time she stood there, her heart was full of fear, full of endings, full of questions she couldn't answer. But tonight, there's only peace. When she reaches the door, she stops and runs her hand along the rough wood. It feels like greeting an old friend. She opens it slowly. The hinges sigh. Inside, the same quiet space. Simple, humble, lit by the faint glow of a fire. Everything is exactly as it was, and yet completely different. The house hasn't changed, but she has become someone who can live inside it again. She lights a candle and places it near the window. The flame flickers, casting long shadows that dance across the walls. She sits at the wooden table. On it lies her old journal, the one she left, half written, when she couldn't face her thoughts. She opens it. The pages smell faintly of time and dust. Lines of words trail off mid-sentence. She smiles. I know how the story ends now, she whispers. She takes a pen, dips it in ink, and writes slowly. The bridge didn't take me away. It brought me back to myself. She closes the journal, resting her hand over it. Then she leans back, listening to the fire crackle, the wind brushing softly against the window. Everything is still. This stillness, this is what she feared before. The quiet that once sounded like emptiness, but now it feels like truth. It's not loneliness, it's presence. She closes her eyes. Images drift through her mind. The river, the bridge, the reflection that met her halfway, and a voice, gentle as the wind, whispers again, "You are not crossing anymore. You are home." And time passes. Maybe minutes, maybe hours. The world outside darkens into deep indigo. She feels peace settling, like soft dust around her. There's nothing left to fix, nothing left to flee, nothing left to prove. Only this moment, alive, whole, unbroken. She whispers to the flame, "Thank you for the bridge. Thank you for the river. Thank you for the stillness that taught me how to begin again." The candlelight flickers once, then steadies. She smiles faintly, eyes half closed. Outside, the stars begin to bloom. Across the sky, quiet witnesses to a heart that has finally come home. Sometimes, change doesn't lead you somewhere new. It simply returns you to where you always belonged. But this time, awake. She leans back in her chair, the fire's warmth against her skin. Her breathing slows. The world feels gentle again. And as the night settles, she whispers, one last time, "I am here, and that is enough."